Hey there. I thought I'd talk a bit about something that had been nagging me and kind of clarify some of the plans that I had for the channel. Really appreciate the support, by the way. I'm glad you guys like the videos. I put a lot of work and time into them. It's actually kind of why I haven't been uploading as much recently. I'm sort of scrapped for time, but don't worry, I am working on something. Anyway, most of my videos are scripted and about a set topic, and I try to be as objective in my analysis of the subjects of these videos as I can. This one is going to be a little different. It's off the cuff. I've just kind of got a list of stuff here that I want to talk about, and I'm going to be explaining my reasoning for things. So here I guess I'm less of an objectified advocate and more of a subjectifying object, literally speaking. These videos should also take a lot less time and will be very rare, as I intend for most of my videos to be of very high quality, and these will be more minimally edited clarification on things I feel I might need to say. So I talked about virtue signaling a while ago. I gave as literal and objective a definition as I could, but I had to actually avoid a part of the term that I wanted to discuss because I feel it's a little opinionated, and I feel that my opinion detracts from any objective definition of the term I could provide. I thought it could hurt my credibility to give my opinion on it, and whether or not that's true, I really do want to strive to be as objective as possible when I do those topic videos, so I don't want much of my opinion in there, if at all, for practically any reason. The thing I wanted to get into is the tendency for people to go overboard when virtue signaling, and the danger that this can present. So think of a virtue, like for example, being against rape. So we would consider it to be a moral good to be anti-rape. Probably like 99% of the population thinks along these lines. Rape is bad, so being anti-rape is good. The logical leap that virtue signalers then make, given this distinction, is that given that rape is a bad thing, the more anti-rape you are, the more good you are. And while that sounds logical on the surface, even reasonable, it can land you in morally ambiguous and even immoral territory pretty quickly. For example, the absolute most powerful, most radical, most anti-rape position anyone could ever take would be to advocate for the 24/7 surveillance and or immediate imprisonment of anyone who is physically capable of raping another human being, as it is this position that is the most likely to result in the least amount of rapes, isn't it? You can see where this type of thinking is a problem. It puts the issue into a vacuum, where no other issue exists save for this one, and the most moral course of action is the one that is the most radically anti-bad thing. Worse still, people excuse this kind of thinking, and while I have never personally seen the radical anti-rape position I just laid out advocated for in real life, I have no doubt that if someone were to advocate for this in certain predominantly left-wing circles in particular, this line of reasoning would be excused away. They'd say, their heart is in the right place. I may not agree with them, but you can tell that if anyone is anti-rape, it's that person. Maybe their methods are wrong, but they have a heart of gold. Right, okay. Well, this presents another problem. I'm sure many of you have noticed the trend of many of these virtue signalers being outed as having committed the same crime they were virtue signaling so hard against. Seems baffling, doesn't it? Until you consider that this radical position against that thing makes them seem like the last person to have committed that crime, doesn't it? It also assuages some of their guilt for the situation. It's very useful for covering your tracks, and it wins you points with the useful crowds of people that are willing to defend you at almost any cost. And yeah, I know what you're thinking, but no one gets that radical with virtue signaling. How can that be a problem? Consider this. While we're going over radical anti-rape positions, wouldn't it be radically anti-rape to, say, make it so that anyone even remotely accused of rape is locked up, being presumed guilty before their innocence? Wouldn't that incredibly harsh and judicially unjust treatment severely discourage rape, even if it were an appalling breach of individual rights? This is the result of the issue being considered in a vacuum. Yes, such a thing would give rapists more pause, but the cost of such a medieval policy far outweighs the benefits provided, as has been abundantly explained by those smarter than I on many occasions. But you see, the next trick for virtue signaling, once it has been pointed out that considering the issue in an absolute vacuum is stupid, can lead to tyranny, and causes more harm than good, is for them to continue considering the issue in a vacuum. Rather than addressing the criticisms, the virtue signaler will instead imply that your opposition to their position means that you are pro-rape. Because if you do not agree that they are a good person for having gone as far away as possible from rape, even if such a position is repugnant, that must somehow de facto mean that you are either an advocate for rape or you don't care that it's happening. And that works because holy hell is it scary to be called pro-rape. Even the possibility that someone might hit them with that powerful hook in a debate or just a discussion is enough to cow opponents into accepting these radical positions, because it's more beneficial to be called incorrect but morally good than correct but morally evil. It's also cowardice, and this kind of linguistic trickery should be stamped out wherever it's found. Do not indulge virtue signalers. It's a dangerous game. Right, okay, rant over. Just wanted to kind of get that out there because while I consider that to be an important component of virtue signaling, it sounded too opinionated to put it into the video that I made on the subject. I'll also be changing my channel trailer soon, probably, because I think I sound a little full of myself in it, and that wasn't at all my intention, so watch out for that. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, even without the fun animation stuff and the more heavy sound editing, but don't expect this format often because it makes me feel like a cheapskate and that I'm skipping work. And I feel like my opinion devalues any objective interpretation of events as I deconstruct them, so I don't like to give it very often. Until the next video, this has been a slightly less objectified advocate. Hope you enjoyed.